You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. I'm Lois Calderon. The Commission on Elections 2nd Division junked the disqualification case filed against former Social Welfare Secretary Erwin Tulfo as the nominee of the ACT-CIS party list. It said the decision was based on lack of jurisdiction since the petition was filed 9 months after the party list won in the 2022 national and local polls. Also, we get to know Comelec's preparations for the Barangay and SK elections and the DILG's call for candidates to undergo drug testing. Let's go straight to the source. Comelec Spokesperson Rex Laudiangco. Thanks for joining us on The Source. Yes. Could you enlighten us on the decision of the Comelec 2nd Division junking the disqualification case against Erwin Tulfo as the ACT-CIS representative? The reason he cited was the lack of jurisdiction. Why?
As we all know, that Erwin Tulfo is the fourth nominee, originally the fourth nominee of ACT-CIS. And when the third nominee, the original sitting third nominee of ACT-CIS, resigned sometime in February 2023, automatically under the rules, Republic Act 7941, Erwin Tulfo ascended to that post, the third seat. A petition was filed sometime in last year, March 2022, claiming that Erwin Tulfo is disqualified from being a nominee of the ACT-CIS party list on two grounds. First, the citizenship issue. The second one is the disqualification based on conviction for libel. But unfortunately, the petition for disqualification was indeed filed 9 months after the proclamation of ACT-CIS party list. It was filed sometime in March 2023, when in fact the ACT-CIS was proclaimed in May 26, 2022. And according to our rules, said petitions for disqualifications can only be filed until the day of the proclamation of the party list. This being so, Comelec was divested of its jurisdiction to rule upon the case, and therefore it will result in the dismissal of the petition.
So it's really a technicality case, sir. There will be a motion, though, to appeal the decision. Until when can a motion be submitted? Is the decision appealable?
It's 5 days from the promulgation and receipt of the said decision, since it was promulgated and in fact served to the parties yesterday, May 25. The petitioner, Attorney Tolentino Jr., has until May 30 to file his motion for reconsideration, which will be elevated to the Commission and back for deliberation.
When does it become final and executory?
After the lapse of the said period, May 30, and if Attorney Tolentino, the petitioner, failed to file a motion for reconsideration, then that decision will become final and executory, unless, of course, restrained by the Supreme Court.
Ngayon, kailan po siya maaaring umupo as ACT-CIS representative?
There is no more issue, ma'am, as to Erwin Tulfo sitting as the third nominee, ascending to that post. The petition was in fact dismissed, and then at any time, Mr. Tulfo can in fact ascend to the post and take his assumption of oath of office and assume that post.
Well, we move now to another topic. That's the Barangay and SK elections. Interior Secretary Benhar Avalos said that Barangay and SK elections candidates should undergo drug testing. What is the Comelec's position on this?
If we can remember, sometime in 2007 elections, that part of the requirement, a negative drug testing certificate, was already tried by the Commission on Elections. Unfortunately, we were brought to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court struck down our resolution. It's the case of Social Justice Society and Aquilino Pimentel Jr. versus Comelec. It was decided by the court in November 3, 2008. And in deciding such, the Supreme Court said that aside from the requirements required under the Constitution, Comelec cannot provide additional requirements. When we required negative drug testing certificate, the court said that we are indeed violating the Constitution by putting additional requirements outside of the original intent of the framers of our Constitution.
So, against ho ba kayo sa requirement, to make it a requirement, you see no problem if the candidates want to do voluntary drug testing?
Voluntary drug testing is very much welcome, ma'am. In fact, it was Comelec who initiated this action. It was us, based on the existing law there, the Comprehensive Dangerous Drugs Act. We required among all candidates to submit, as part of the requirements, a negative drug testing certificate. It's just very unfortunate that it's not included in our Constitution. And that because of that, the Supreme Court ruled we cannot do that. Of course, our own resolution was struck down as constitutional, and therefore we have to proceed accepting all certificates of candidacy without the intended drug testing certificate. Although we support that move, unfortunately, it is unconstitutional and has no basis in law.
Well, thank you really for your time. We'll be taking a short break. We'll be taking a short break. This is The Source on CNN Philippines. Please stay tuned. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. I'm Lois Calderon. Still with us, Comelec Spokesperson Rex Laudiangco. Sir, tell us about your preparations for the barangay and SK elections. How are they coming along? Okay.
Hello, Ma'am Luis. Good morning again.
Okay. Yes, you were on mute earlier. Carry on.
We're happy to inform the public that the Comelec is 100% ready to conduct the elections of the Barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan on October 30. We had already printed the almost 92 million ballots that we will be using, all the election returns, the statement of votes, and in fact, they had already been packed and ready for pre-deployment. The only two things that we will do prior to the elections: first, of course, the deployment of these ballots and other paraphernalia sometime a few days before the elections. And the second one is a month before October 30, we will be training the teachers and other members of the public who will become serve as electoral board members.
Now, early and mall voting, are these initiatives pushing through, and where?
Yes, they will push through, and in fact, we're now finalizing the venues of which malls we will be using. We have been continuing the efforts to liaise with the mall operators so that more malls will be included in the mall voting, so that our countrymen will be able to vote more conveniently, more safely, and of course, in the comfort of the malls. We are now talking also to the other, even small mall providers, so that we could enhance and enlarge the participation of the public. The primary beneficiaries of this mall voting will be those who are residing barangays with a close proximity to the malls, because the number one rule in setting the polling place is that our countrymen should not commute going to the malls. It should be walking distance from the residences, and that and the barangays will be able to go to the barangay members will be able to go to the malls with such convenience during the elections.
How many voters are you looking at, those who would likely go to the malls? And if you're talking here of malls, not all barangays, of course, would be have close proximity to malls, right? So there'll just really be a few.
We're looking at less than 1 million for now, because this is just a pilot test of the mall voting. Perhaps in future elections, perhaps in 2025, we will be able to go with more malls for our voting. But for now, it's being pilot tested just for the barangay. So taking in at around 20 to 30 malls, if we could have 50, perhaps we could have more than 1 million voters enjoying the benefits of mall voting.
20 malls, and that will be across the country, or just in major cities where the big malls are?
That will be across the country, ma'am. The number one consideration in accepting offers or in liaising with malls about this is the area for voting. As we could see, barangays are catered in so many numbers of precincts. So in malls, most of which have limited areas in small malls, we have limited areas to conduct the voting. That's why most of the malls that we are engaging right now are those large ones, the big malls that we have. So that they are around 20 all over the country, and hoping that we could increase the number in the coming months.
That makes sense. But how about online voting? To be clear, this is for the 2025 elections. And what security measures are in place to make sure that the system will be protected from cyber criminals?
That is correct, Ma'am Luisa. In the drafting of the terms of reference for the internet voting, which we will be releasing in a few weeks, you could see that the number one priority in internet voting is the safety and security. We will make it sure that we have enough encryption, we have enough firewalls and defenses against hacking. But not only that, we will be gunning for more transparency. It means that even though we're going to vote for use internet voting in overseas voting, we will be having a transparency audit. This system of voting will be auditable, and all the votes will be accounted, and we will make sure that our voters from overseas will be receiving a confirmation that their votes was cast and therefore it was counted properly.
I want to drill down further on the online voting. This is in 2025, which is the midterm elections. I understand, I spoke with the DICT secretary just last week, and it's really targeted at OFWs, absentee voters, because the government spends over $500 billion just for that, right? Or is my figure correct? Could you give us the latest numbers or as to how much Comelec is actually spending for absentee voting, overseas voting, and how online voting could actually translate to cost for the government?
In 2022 elections, we have 1.7 million registered overseas voters. And out of that 1.7 million, only 38.16% voted, or only 600,000. And yet the Comelec spent 411 million pesos in sending the ballots there, in sending the machines there, establishing the precincts in our consular and embassy offices, and also sending the ballots by mail. They have 30 days to vote, 30 days earlier than all of us here in the Philippines. And yet still, we only had a 38.16 voter turnout. That's why perhaps with the use of internet voting in 2025, more of our fellow men overseas will be able to vote. Perhaps we could increase it up to 80%, just like what we had locally. And at the convenience of their homes, using their cell phones, tablets, or laptops, which they constantly use, communicating with their family. Through those means, we will be able to go with the larger voter turnout, them voting in the comfort of their homes or place of employment, and account for all the costs. And perhaps we could save more using internet voting.
From 38% to 80% voter turnout overseas voting. Thank you so much, Comelec Spokesperson Rex Laudiangco.
Maraming salamat po.
Thank you for joining us here on The Source. I'm Lois Calderon. You're watching CNN Philippines.